My name is Adam Wasser from Brooklyn, New York. On the topic of the history of the Jewish people and the Arab peoples. So many times do I watch CNN, the BBC, MSNBC, Time magazine, and all these other magazines and other newspapers, and I find that they so often leave out so many details of the Jewish and Arab history. So often do they only start at the beginning of the founding of the modern state of Israel as the conflict and leave out the actual history of it all. So let's go back to the Bible, to Avram, to Abraham. He had two sons. Now Abraham at first had a problem having children with Sarah, and Sarah said, take my maidservant Hagar, who was the princess of the Pharaoh of Egypt. She was a princess, and she gave Avram a son named Ishmael. But as time continued, Sarah was able to have a child, and his name was Isaac, one of the founders of the Jewish people. As time continued, there was such conflict between Hagar and Sarah that Hagar and Ishmael were taken out of the tent of Avram and sent into the wilderness. Here's where it all began, really, is the conflict of Avram choosing one son over the other. And yet God told Hagar and her son Ishmael, you'll be a great nation, you'll be powerful and rule many other nations. As time continues, we find that the tribes of Ishmael and Israel actually got along at many points in time. In fact, when Ishmael was alive, Ishmael lived for a long time, he was always trying to kill his nephew, Yaakov, and he was always plotting to destroy him. He never succeeded, thank God. But when Ishmael died, his descendants, as well as Yaakov's descendants, got along pretty well for most of the part of ancient history. As time continues, in the Middle Ages, an Islamic nation was founded in southern Spain. It was Sunni, and it was open to all people, Christians and Jews and everything. It was the most modernist nation of the time. It was the most safest nation of the time. But as time continued, the Shiites of North Africa pushed in and destroyed the Sunni kingdom, and they introduced Sharia law, and all the Jews had to wear ribbons and either were thrown out or forced to convert, or the Christians were forced to convert. It was a bad time. In 1492, the Christians come into southern Spain, destroy the Muslims, and basically tell the Jews and the Muslims either get out or convert, or we'll kill you. Then the Islamic empire of the Ottoman Empire tells the Jews, the Sultan says in 1492, you're leaving Spain, come to Turkey, come to my empire. The Polish did the same thing, and many Jews came to the Ottoman Empire, and even a king was made king of Cyprus, that was Jewish during this time. As time continues, we find that in Middle Ages, places like Egypt and for some parts Yemen were very safe for the Jewish people, while Europe was very dangerous. It was all good in Egypt. When the Christians controlled Palestine during the Crusades, where was the Jew to go but to Egypt, because that was the safest place to be. As we look into Persia, which is Iran today, we find that it's an up and down scale of situation where sometimes, depending on the ruler, was good for the Jews, bad for the Jews. Sometimes in Persia it was wonderful for the Jews. Other times it was horrible. And this is really the case in the Islamic world throughout the centuries, that sometimes it was good for the Jews, sometimes it was wonderful for the Jews. Before the founding of Israel, the Ottoman Empire controlled Palestine. And it was a horrible place for Jews to live. Most of the Jews were very poor, and there was constant pogroms going around. In 1846, I believe, there was a pogrom in Damascus, Syria, where all the Jews were killed, and whoever was left was thrown out of Damascus. There were like at least a dozen pogroms in Hebron in the 1800s, where Jews were either massacred and thrown out of Hebron or just removed altogether. And the Ottomans really couldn't control the issue because the Arabs of that region hated the Jews with such passion. In fact, when Zionism came around from Eastern Europe and Jews started living in the land of Palestine, the Arabs fought strongly against them, but like today, they would sell the land to the Jews because It was a no man's land. It was Drech. It was nobody really wanted to live there, so they'd sell it. But at the same time, they'd turn around and kill a Jew for it. As we progress, we go into the time of the founding of Israel. Now, when Israel was created in 1948, all the Arabs, most of the Arab nations threw the Jews out of their nation. Egypt pushed the Jews out. They didn't physically remove them, but they pushed them pretty much. But Libya and Yemen and all these countries threw the Jews out. Iraq threw the Jews out of their countries, and where did they go? They went to Israel. But they took their valuables, they took their belongings before they left. And in fact, one of the greatest refugees of this world today are the Jewish people, because of how many Jews were actually removed from Islamic lands. Now, I'm not going to get into the modern state of Israel, because a lot of us know a lot of that history and it's very detailed, but I'm just giving a rundown of the history of what's been going on here. The Jewish people have always worked with the Arab people, and many times the Arab people work with the Jewish people, but this is one of those times that is not the case. Can it change? Of course it can change. Time can change. But it takes strong leadership, it takes determination, and it takes a strong hand in Israel to let the Arab people know that we're here to stay and we're not going anywhere, and we're not going to just give them whatever they want until they stop trying to kill us. In fact, some of the most persecuted people in the world today are the Israeli people. Constant missiles are being fired into Israel. There's nuclear threats from Iran. There's biological weapons in Syria that are aimed at Israel. Israel is constantly being embargoed by the UN. It is a persecuted nation. It is a persecuted people. Can it change? It can change, definitely. But it takes strong leadership, and it takes a belief in God. And we can do it. God bless you all, and Mashiach now. Amen.